Parking is a big one. I'd like to ask the Director for EPR what the indications are of the effectiveness of those recovery plans for the parking, SPA, and also the car park income. Added together, I think they're about £1 million or thereabouts.
Through you, one of your issues, Chair. In terms of generally with parking, we are, the numbers of penalty charge notices, etc., are at a similar level to last year. The income has been an issue in car parks, and I think overall we need to be more realistic about the general fund budget in that respect, because for the last 3 years we haven't achieved the income target, so it's not an in-year problem. But we have taken it as a budget hit each of the last 3 years. So it's at about, so it was about 757,000 income, but a sort of expectation of about £1 million 3 years ago, and we're now down to about £650,000. So we need to correct that budget overall, and we're talking to finance colleagues about that. What I would say though is that the changes that have been made in terms of particularly North Finchley, where we've reduced the car park charges, we are seeing a greater usage of the car parks, and our income hasn't overall fallen. So I think that is, while it hasn't been better than it was before, we are seeing a better turnover in the car parks, which obviously will in itself assist with the town centres.
So if it wasn't for the reductions in tariffs in that neck of the woods, do you think that actually the car park income would be lower than it is now? Because in this we're considering amending tariffs further, so we're looking for perhaps further reductions. Is that where we're going with this, or not?
I think we should let the experiments that we've currently put in place fully operate over the Christmas period and into the new year, and then see where that takes us. We, as you know, that the Leadman has done a lot of work with looking at all the car parking areas, not just shopping trades, etc. And we've obviously done a lot of work on thinking about what's the best way to operate, what tariffs to operate. But I think we should let the experiments that we set off complete, and then evaluate them, and then decide whether a further reduction would help. But at the moment, at least it's holding the income is steady. We haven't lost income, and we are getting more usage of the car parks.
Thank you. How does this compare to other boroughs? Are their parking accounts or car park income down? Is this a North London or London-wide problem, a nationwide problem even?
Well, I think it's a nationwide problem, and certainly recent research that London Council has carried out looking at how far parking charges themselves have affected the use of car parks. It is very difficult to judge that is the main reason, because across London there's quite a wide variance in parking charges. So if you think of town centres like Auckland, where they're a lot higher than ours are, but actually still have pretty good usage. You go to Brent Cross, there's free parking, but has suffered some, the footfall has not been as high as they would have liked. I haven't talked to the centre manager recently, so I don't know what the recent figures are. But what that report showed was a much more complex picture, that actually what's affecting retail has been hit very hard by internet purchasing. And that's the key way that people are buying. And if you want to have another offer, it's got to be a pretty good offer for people to come out to. So the two Westfields have done very well over the last year, because obviously it's a very sort of up-to-date, sort of high-end offer to shoppers, and that's why we need to get on with the Brent Cross delivery development.
I completely agree. I do remember reading a report some time ago. I think it was when you were looking into the effects when we spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on the free out for three scheme some years ago. What I read in that was actually people who spent the most in small town centres when they did a survey. I think it was in North Finchley who did the survey. Don't quote me on that. It was people who walked who spent the most. So in terms of training. Perhaps this should be a campaign to encourage more walkers to town centres rather than trying to tell them though.
I agree, Chairman, and that same report showed that actually, although you get, there's a lower initial spend from people who walk to, most shopping is from people who walk into the town centres, you get a low initial spend, but of course it's very frequent. And that's why it's better. And of course, one of the things we have done is invest in particularly pavements approaching town centres and in town centres, so that actually the public realm is good. And it will be interesting to see the combination of what we've done with the Outer London Fund on improving public realm. I was really pleased to see that Barnet had a very good turnout for their Christmas celebration this year. I think 12,000 people was quoted in the paper as turning out. So it's those sort of creating more of an experience of going into the town centre, not just not just expecting people to turn up come one way.
I think you're right, because we all agree these shopping centres with Brent Cross or Westfield, it is an experience there. They're very well laid out, the shops, all variety of shops, restaurants, cafes, all sorts of facilities there actually beyond that, salons and whatnot as well. So yeah, it is about having that experience. I completely agree. Well, so the recovery plans, we'll get an update obviously next quarter. I might ask the cabinet member to come as well to that one, to speak to him about that, see where he sees things going forward with the scheme. Will we get the scheme results by the next meeting, or?
Yes, we've been getting data, we get data weekly anyway, but one of the things we particularly want to do is be able to drill down by bay number, so we can see before and after. We've been talking to the cabinet member about getting onto that data, and it would be a good opportunity to feed that back at the end of this quarter.
Nina?
It will be interesting as well to have the figures for the last 3 years as well, to see what the effect of increases and then what effect that had on the revenue, and also then after the prices have been reduced. And as you suggest, nearly run through Christmas seems very sensible. I would like to give a little plea for the town centres. Councillor Thomas was extolling the Westfields of Brent Crosses that we all would go to making larger purchases, but I feel there is a place for the town centres. They may have to reinvent themselves, but I bring to your attention the Whetstone Town Centre, which by virtue of the council failing to control what happened there has been very successful, and that may be something that we should look out for.
Thank you. I think I certainly was, what you just said, was another version of what I said really. I think these new town centres, they built very recently, so they've got today's market, today's shop reminder, whereas the High Street, of course, it was built hundreds of years ago, which is a line of shops, and it is down to traders and us to a degree to help redesign the offer there, and I think that's what I was trying to say. Certainly there is a place for it, and nearest ones to me, East Finchley and Finchley Church End, both seem to be very busy, very well used, and I think there's a particular problem up in North Finchley, and it's quite right, we have got the pilot scheme up there as well, so it just goes to show High Streets can attract people, but it's getting that offer spot on. We move on to performance, if that's okay now, still on this